All right. What is going on, L&M family? I am here with LinkedIn superstar, Mr. Albert Octavianus, who has sacrificed his time and stayed up to midnight to be here and share all of the amazing insights that he's had throughout his career. You know, he's a change management expert first. And what really captures my attention is that he spends a lot of time, or at least most of his posts that I've seen lately, are about digital transformations. And what stands out to me is two things about that. He speaks about ecosystems in digital transformation. So I think we're going to learn a lot from him from that perspective. The other thing is, it's clear that he is a people centered leader. And I think there's a powerful combination there that folks are going to be able to take some value and apply to their change management issues, or even just in leadership and management, right? Because
Yeah.
that you also represent change. And he's also like, he's a Aikido expert or practitioner. He's doing all kinds of things to continue his life's experience here on the world. And so I almost forgot, I got to do the L&M shout out, and then we'll get to talk to Mr. Albert. And so L&M shout out to Renee, who left this review. He says, tremendously inspiring to say the least. On the last chapter, I had to hold back the tears because I didn't want the book to end. Thank you, Jesse, for sharing this with the world. This was the water that I needed to sprout the seeds you planted in me all the way back in sixth grade. That comes from my hero and my baby brother, Renee. He finally read the book that I wrote 6 months ago, and he went ahead and left that review, which, if you can't tell, I'm getting a little choked up because that was a super meaningful review. So, folks,
Nice.
leave me a review, send some comments. I love them, and I want to have the opportunity to celebrate you on the next episode. And with that, I'm going to stop jamming. And before it turns 3 a.m. for Mr. Albert over there, Mr. Albert, how are you doing, sir?
Okay, thank you, JC. I mean, like, finally got to meet you online directly. Yeah, doing great here, doing great. It's a kind of wet season in my country, Indonesia, Jakarta. And yeah, like you said, it's midnight, but like we discussed before, it's a good time to catch me because I'm kind of night owl. Like Batman was one of my goals to become Batman someday.
So you are a night owl then, huh?
Yeah, it's actually not by choice, but it's actually by design, I think.
Okay, okay. Tell us more about what is the design behind this night owlness.
Okay, so maybe around like 12 or 13 years ago, I think I'm still like most of the normal people out there, but I keep becoming night owl because when I think, yeah, around again almost 10 years ago, my work is actually bringing me to that kind of things. Working with some global teams, and then because we have our differences in time, everything else, and then also,
Mhm.
well, I'm sure you know that we have like demands from the clients and projects, and so sometimes we are left with no choice but to do it like even after office, something like that. Because sometimes I don't want to sacrifice my weekends, so I try to do it like, okay, this is the weekdays, then I try to finish the weekdays, and then the weekend is just for me to detox and decompress for it. So yeah, that's why I thought it's not like really by choice, but it's by design, and design is actually from my career journey.
What I'm hearing is,
Mm.
as your career progressed, you got to a point where you were serving clients globally. So, like, are you midnight Saturday morning right now? Like, you're in the
Ah, yeah, yeah,
future?
yeah, 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 yeah. That's
Okay.
why
Well, you're in the future. You're
the future.
always ahead of us,
That's
which
why
probably,
yeah, that's why I always eat
well,
cake, right? There's always like a party somewhere in the world.
so then let me talk about this ecosystem and digital
Mm.
transformations. But I'm assuming that's not how you began your career. Like, how did your career start? Or did you know as a young man that you wanted to be a leader of change and
Mm.
transformation?
Definitely no. Definitely no, Jesse. I mean, okay, when you know about change leader, I mean, like you're one of them, right? One of the change leader and change shakers, change makers. I mean, our your communities, and you notice that it's a relentless roles as a change maker, and to become managing that kind of change, like not all people are ready for that kind of challenges. But when I started, I think for the past years, past and in the recent years, when I was being asked about my career choice, and then even in like interviews, something like when people like, okay, can you tell us in one word about yourself? What about yourself and then your journey? And then just like one word, like, oh, it's eclectic. Why eclectic? Because
Ah,
like, yeah, I'm combination of several things. Like I started in my undergraduate studies like in engineering,
okay.
and then I took like the industrial engineers, and I took like quality management kind of studies, and I actually started in that. I do my
Oh,
thesis in the quality management in the ISO standardizations.
got
But
it.
yeah, but I mean along the way, and then I think I also share a bit with you in your post in the comment section that I work in the water filtrations companies, and so in the warehouse, everything else. So that's why I started my career when I while studying also for my master degrees, right? But then my passion actually is marketing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's marketing, and that's why I think I learned how to express myself in writings, and then
Yeah,
how I can get to know all of these things that we call personal branding, everything else. At that, I think at the time, personal branding is not that kind of hype, but yeah, I learned from there. But
right.
somehow along the way, I saw these like little ads in the newspaper for all of the new generations. We used to have job ads in newspapers,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
The
yes.
small one, and I was
People
like,
don't know about
yeah, and then I saw that like, wait, what is it? It's change management. So it's around like 2000, and I think it's 2002. So like
that. Okay.
20 years ago. Oh my god!
Yeah.
I just realized like it's before Justin Bieber time. Okay, so it's 2002, and then I said change management. It sounds interesting, and then I tried to apply it. And at the time in Indonesia, in my country, never heard of that change management. Change management was being brought by the big fours. I think at the time it's mostly Accenture, IBM, the ones implementing the ERP systems in in the big
Yeah.
companies. So when I applied that, and I got like actually I got called by the recruiters. When I came to the companies, it's a quite big a shock for me because then the company is actually one of the biggest conglomerates in Indonesia. I'm like, why are you putting these small ads in newspapers and with a PO box and then with no address? Like, at the time, we don't have a big use of emails, unfortunately. And then it's like, the recruiter said, yeah, that's our purpose because only the persons that actually interested in change management that can apply or they want to
Mm,
apply. Yeah,
got it.
so I got in, and then at the time you can like count in one hands change management practitioners in Indonesia, and most of them are mostly in consultings. And so I got in to become the employees there. And I actually asked my Xbox saying, hey, sir, can I ask you, like, why do you accept with me to become change management? Because
Yeah,
I know nothing about it at the time.
right.
There's no school and then there's no books around it. And then the boss actually assigned me, like, yeah, because you're coming from a marketing background and you have a passion in marketing. I was like, oh, okay. So that's
That
something,
is
right? Yeah,
really
that's something. Yeah,
interesting.
because why? Because you have to make people want the change. Like, and he
Yes.
said, okay, so there's the wants and there's the needs, right? I mean,
Yep.
it's the goals is to make people realize that they need the change.
Yes.
But you have to start it with they want the change first. Like maybe you
Yes.
heard a lot of things, a lot of memes coming in. Like people want to change, but they don't want to be changed. But when
100%.
yeah, but when they realize they need the change, and the change comes from within. So that's where my
Yes.
marketing background comes in. And to make that, you have to make them realize there's an added value in changing. And that's where
Yes.
my industrial engineers background comes in. So it's
Yeah.
complementary. What with the process and you, I think we have in our communities like the lean master, everything else,
Yep.
because you make them realize there's something, there's an added value with changing the process, improve the process, and that's where it comes in. So it's combined together, and then I join in, and then truthfully, after working there 2.5 years change management, mostly system implementations, I realized, not realized actually, I want to try it as a marketer again. So I get into business development.
Ah.
Yeah, but and then 2008 hits, and then it happens the global recessions at the time 2008, I think. And then so I quit as the business development at that time, the area for agribusiness, and I go back again change management, but under HR. At the time, previously it's
Oh,
under IT and it's under HR, and at the time I think like they said, the rest is history. So I go deep into HR area, HR space
yeah.
until now. So I go both like I say, wait, you're HR, so you change management, so you definitely HR. No, change management I think is like have they have a lot of how you say common practice with HR, but it's not
Hmm.
HR. It's I think it's also
Right.
it's IT, it's process, it's everything else. So I'm
It's
both
yes.
like HR and change management. Yeah, so that's a little bit story there.
Oh, that's amazing. So, a few things that
Yeah.
stood out. You started in engineering,
Mm.
got into marketing, and then got into change management. And
Yep.
then within change management, you went to IT, HR, which I
Exactly.
think for the practical person to say, what in the world? Like, why would you, how does that even work? But I completely understand. And so I want to share an observation and I'd like to know what you think about it.
Yep.
I know a lot of people that are in change management with an engineering background,
Yep.
and they struggle to get people excited about the change, or the way they go about deploying the change makes the change happen, but as soon as they leave, it falls apart.
Mm.
What are your thoughts there?
Okay, so I'm really glad you bring out these topics because it's like two of the five best questions in change management. Like how
Mm-hmm.
to make people excited for the change. That's the first one. And the second one, like how to make it sustainable. And okay, so the first one, how to make them excited. It's always comes back to the classic part. I think it started by the movement by the Simon Sinek that he was saying that start with why, right?
Yep.
Start with the why. But there's a catch on that. When you
Okay.
start with the why, you sometimes negate the purpose of managing change. Okay,
Mm.
so in change management, we are managing change. We are not changing the management, like some of the common
Mm.
misperception, there,
Yes.
right?
That's a big difference.
There's a big
Yes.
difference. But
Yes.
unfortunately, some of my clients are thinking that way. But so I try to make that straight. So it's managing change. But by doing that, you have to focus on the how. You can
Mm-hmm.
start with the why. You can know about the what. But change management, you put your effort into the how.
Oof. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
So this is something that when I saw many change practitioners coming in and even in consulting areas, so they are too focused on the what and the why. They forgot that
Mhm.
your not your job actually. Your how to say you can have an added value in this kind of project and this kind of change initiative if you tell the project team and then the stakeholders the how part. Because the
Yeah.
what, sometimes the what is already being decided.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
it's
yeah,
already done.
yeah.
Like,
It's already decided. Like, why coming in? But as change management, oh, because I'm contacted here or I'm needed here, because you already want to change something. That's the what. It's already
yep.
decided. And then
Yep.
the why. To go to the what, sometimes you have to go. I believe like you have to do like these valuations and then the feasibility studies if you're going into the
Yep.
project, which project is it worth it that I'm doing this project. So that's the why then. Okay, you have to know the why for sure because you're going to need that to trigger it, the needs in people or the wants in people, and you are for sure you also have to know the what. If not, you don't have any
Yep.
kind of baseline to create your change management process. But the how, now that's it's the challenge there. When you
Yes.
started to create the how and then work around that, the how as a core with the people centric in mind and being supported, like you said, being engineer, it gives you a very important leading edge in competence and competency
Okay.
in your trade as an
Yep.
engineer. We
Yep.
engineers are practical beings, right?
Yes.
You're looking at some things like you're looking at machines, you're looking at drawings. Sometimes you don't know like, hey, who's drawing this? Or like how these drawings come to be, or how these machines are designed. Sometimes you only
Right.
think like, how are they working? What are they
Yep.
resulting, right? As an engineer. So that's how being built as an engineer. So that has give me the leading edge, like when designing this change, that gives me the purpose of the process itself, what it will deliver, what are the results of the process. So that's my second why. You have the
Yeah.
why, the change initiative, why you have to change, but you have the
Yes.
results or the goals, why you design these processes. Now that's the thing that you have to bring to the stakeholders and give them the information that okay, these are the values that you will get if you go to these processes. This process won't be easy. Sometimes you have to balance the good and the bad. In the
Yes.
why, sometimes you can after this change, like you can have shorten process time, shorten SLA. That's good, but there's a but in there. But you have to experience these painful things first. You have to learn
Yes.
new things. You have to learn being uncomfortable. You have to go or stretch your comfort zones. How? Now that's where change management comes in. So I think that's one thing that your first questions, like change management, focus the effort on the how and how that how can result in added value on the whole change process.
Hmm.
And you have to communicate that values from the how part to the stakeholders. That's one of
Yeah.
the, for me, the critical things, how to make the stakeholders be excited about the change. Okay, so that's the
Yeah.
first one. The first one. And the second one, I forgot the second one. The second question.
No, this
Yeah.
that's a good stopping point. Maybe
Okay,
it'll
okay.
come
Yeah,
back to you.
yeah.
So the one thing when you said like the why and
Hmm.
the what's already figured out.
Yeah.
If they didn't know what, they wouldn't call me. For my clients, they've already decided we want to do this thing. Help us do this thing.
Yeah.
Awesome. What solved? Why? I don't appreciate the amount of energy that people talk about. You got to share the why because it's not that complicated, right? I mean, maybe I just don't understand it, but it's like if all you do is tell me, you give me these promises of how we're going to have better outcomes and our clients are going to be satisfied and work life balance is like wow 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 whatever, right? Like
Eh,
show me. Like I understand. Okay, what's the why? We want to improve cycle time so that we can get more market share. That's really why.
yeah.
The how, like nobody talks about the how, Albert. And I
Hmm.
hope L&M family members out there, all you change folks, like we are not focusing enough time on the how. And so I'm doing some online training with a group of electricians.
Nice.
And one of the guys, he's a superintendent, he said it like we were figuring out how do you study work and break it down and analyze it and redesign it. And it was beautiful. He's like, you know what, Jess? I just realized part of our problem, like our production problem with our guys and what's causing like the friction in terms of relationships is we have the what. We got to install the thing.
Yeah.
And we know why, so we can keep our jobs and make budget, but we have never talked about the how to do that work to hit the what and meet the why.
Uh,
He didn't say it in those exact words,
yeah.
but when you said, I'm like, oh my God, like there's a fundamental concept there that I think a lot of people are missing. And so I mentioned at the top of the conversation that I recognize you to be a very people centered leader, a change leader at that. What's the relationship? Like, how did you develop that people, the appreciation for people and connect that to the how? Or is it even connected? Check it out, hometowners. So Primo, he's a little bit embarrassed about like asking for some backup, some esquina. And so I want to hit you up and like if you're digging this content, pues give it un like, give it the stars or leave a comment. But if you really, really want to see Primo like get all chiflado, like for the reels, hit him up on the socials, Holmes. Like if you give him a comment in the socials and let him know what you thought about the thing, pues he's gonna light up. But only do it if you mean it because yeah, you already know how Primo is. Se cree mucho el cabrón. So if you could do that, if you could leave a comment or a rating or the stars or whatever, that would be cool, man.
Okay, so it comes back again with, remember when I mentioned about my first patient in marketings in career,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it turned out that after almost a decade, I'm doing the marketing and then switch to HR. I then realized that one silver linings on those two roles, two careers, actually people. In marketing, you try to find out the pain points of your customer journey, everything else. Then
Yes.
in HR, you're also trying to find the pain points for your employees. Those are the people. They are your
Yes.
internal customers. So I think because of that, then why I mentioned the more into people centrics. I mean, for sure, the PPT for an industrial engineer is like the Bibles, like the power, the people process technology, right? But
Yep.
people for me comes first because I think those two kind of backgrounds and then those two kind of patients in my career journey. And how do you link it to the how? It actually comes from when you know about what can you do to have a value added for these people. I mean,
Yep.
you know that being people centric, you have to become like not become. You have to stretch your empathy. You
Ooh.
have to walk.
Ooh.
Yeah, you have to walk in their shoes like a couple of miles. You know how their journey is. You know how they experience challenges in their journey. As simple as when you design, I think coming into the banks and then coming into the office. Like I design employee experience. And then when one of the clients said, "Oh, we already have employee experience. We already have employee journeys." Now we take a look. When I saw the journey, I started asking, "Did you map the employee's journey when they're commuting to work, to your office. It's never there.
No.
It's never there. The journey is
Right.
always starting when you become a candidate, you are recruited, and then from hire to retire in HR. But when you
Yep.
workers already come in, you map the journey in commuting. I mean, maybe you heard that Jakarta is like what sometimes the expatriates are calling the biggest parking spot in Southeast Asia,
Okay.
because most of the roads are becoming parking spots in most of the time. So you just stuck
Ah,
there. Your car is just stuck there.
yeah.
And yeah, it's happening. So the commuting is a challenge. So by knowing that, by working in their shoes, and then you
Mm.
as the change leader or change management, or even as a consultant, or like the third party coming in, or even as the HR leaders in the companies, then you might know what needs to be done. So I think if you heard about these two circles, like the circle of concerns and the circle of influence. So the
Yes.
circle of influence is something that you can influence, but the circle
Yep.
of concern is something that you are trying but you cannot. So you try to widen your circle of influence. So after knowing that, and you know what are the things that you can influence to reduce or to eliminate the pain points of these people, and then how, again, how to make that happen, that's where you become a people centric. That's why you related to the how of them. Yeah, for me, that's the thing. Then, if you can track that, then you have, I say, the added value. You're saying that, okay, so I can reduce the commute. I can help you with the commute, USM employees. I can add maybe one or two buses, employee bus, to have a
Mm-hmm.
pickup points and then the delivery points, right? Pooling station or something there near the
Yep.
employees. But you're going to need like through feasibility studies with analytics of data, everything else. Where are most
Sure.
employee livings? What are the pockets of the employees? And
Yep.
where you can put the bus, everything else, right? But
Yes.
then you have to justify how is it getting to added value for the people and the companies. For the people,
Yes.
for sure.
Mutual.
Yeah, mutual.
Yep. Yep.
People for sure they're going like, okay, I don't have to bring my own car. I just have to park here and then just go there, and then I can go directly with public transport to the pool, and then I just like sit in the bus and I arrive in my office. That's the baseline. But for the companies, like, oh, we have to go with more budget, everything else. But there, if you as an HR, you can prove, or as a change management, you can prove by these processes, by
Yep.
how you're going to calculate them. Then, okay, you will have to invest like maybe several $1,000s in the first year, but in the next couple of years, you will save this how much? Why? Because people are not resigning, right? People are staying.
Yep.
People are not taking more PTOs or sick leave.
Yep. Yep.
But it's a long run. Now
It's
that
a long game.
it's a long game,
Yes.
man. That's where you
Yes.
mentioned about sustainability. That's it, Daisy. That's the sustainability part.
Yeah. Oh man, Albert, God, this is so good. So one thing I want to hammer on,
Yeah.
folks, if you missed it, go back, rewind, probably I don't know, 3 6 minutes somewhere around there. You like spelled out the formula what I'm going to call a transactional leader because I used to be, and sometimes I still am, but don't tell anybody.
Yeah, but it's nothing
But if
better
you're
than that. It's there's nothing better than
right,
that.
but if you want to transition to like a transformational leader, a
Mm,
more people centered focused leader, you just spelled out like a system or a process to achieve that, to like practice and build those skills of understanding the people's journey. I think you called it stretching your empathy.
mm,
It's totally actionable, or rather, it can be tactical. You just got to practice it and
yeah.
do that. Now, one as you were talking, there was something that was kind of like jumping around in my head. And it's something that I've been able to witness in like a small number of the leaders that I've worked with. Their vision, or maybe I'll call it their organizational or professional patience, are very small. And so, what that means is the way it plays itself out is when there is an opportunity for like a real impactful, meaningful change, because the measuring stick is longer than normal,
Mm.
they're against it. Like if it takes longer than 60 days to withdraw that ROI, they're against it. Do you see that?
Many times, many times. If I cannot say all the times, I have to say many times. I mean, happens even
Yeah.
okay. Even maybe as you as the entrepreneur also, or the owner of the business, Jesse. I mean, like you cannot stop thinking like, show me the money first.
Sure.
Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with that. That's totally fine. because sometimes the bottom line or the P&L, profit and loss, is the one thing that we're trying to maximize, well,
Yep.
optimize. But remember when we discussed about how people get excited for change?
Yes.
And that's what we're talking about people. But when we're saying that, how to make leaders and business owners excited for change?
Yes.
When he's saying that they're looking for less than 60 days, it's totally normal. And what I did, I actually created like these two, what we call the quick wins and like the
Ah.
long ones.
Yes.
So the quick wins mostly, and I divided like the wins, the quick ones and the long ones, actually also in several categories. Like this is quantifiable, this is tangible, but this one is more qualitative or it's intangibles, right? But the intangibles ones or the qualitative ones could be tangible or quantitative in the long run. But for now,
Yep.
if you're looking for the quantitative or tangible ones in the short wins or the quick wins, these are the things. It might not be as much, right, in the
Right.
long run, but this could happen. So, okay, for example, I was involved in the project. It seems simple, but sometimes not. It's like a payroll automation project. We
Okay.
call it the e-pay slip. So in my country, I think like even now, sometimes you receive the pay slip in hard copy. You receive the
Uh
pay
huh.
slip and then it's like in an envelope, everything else. And then we trying to decide it like, and all the documents in the back office for the pay slip is still in the hard copy. You have to print out, and then you have the copy of them, the ones that you keep in the HR and the ones that you give to the employees, right?
Yes.
And then trying as simple as that. So when you try to move to the e-pay slips or the automations, the resistance is actually coming from the employees. As
Yes.
simple as this, like, hey, Albert, I don't want to have a e-pay slip. Why? Because at one point, I like to see something in my hand when I have my payday. Okay,
Yes.
so like it happens. I mean, like people see if I cannot see the cash, I can see something, the number. Yeah, but you can't.
Right here.
Oh man, I
Yes.
mean,
Yes.
yeah, okay. So you have to totally understand what I'm getting at, right? So
I told him. Well,
yeah,
let me explain
yeah,
because I remember this was probably 15 years ago.
yeah,
The company I was working for,
mm,
we made the transition from paper to digital
yeah,
checks, and they were really great about how they handled
yeah,
most of the change. Not all of it, but most of it. And so it happened over a 3-year period. They said, "Hey, you have an option. You can get hard copy, you can get
mm,
digital, and you could choose." So for a whole year we could choose. After year 1, and we knew this up front, they said year 2 we're going to transition everybody over to
mm,
digital. Some of us still fought. I was one of like, no, no, I still want my paper. And so they were patient with us. They got,
okay,
the majority over. And then
yeah,
year 3, they said, okay, if you still want your paper check, you're going to have to sign this thing and you're going to pay. It was like, it wasn't a lot of money, like 60 cents a week
mm,
to continue getting your check or whatever it was. And for me, it was like, well, okay, give me the stupid digital thing. I don't want you to take my 60 cents. Anyways, but like, they were patient with
yeah,
us. So since we'll just say 15 years now, I've been getting, well, we'll say 12. I've been getting all my pay digitally, direct deposit. I don't get any paper.
mm,
Well, then I start my business. I start my business about 20 months ago, and not everybody has a smooth process for me to do the digital payment.
mm,
And it's easier because, anyways, for a lot of reasons, I get a check in the mail. And I remember the very first time I got my check as my own business
yeah,
owner,
yeah.
I was like, man, look, I got this is awesome. So that's why I have this
No,
thing.
yeah, I mean,
Like,
okay, again, it's justified. Like me in the books, I steal the hard copy books compared to digital ones.
yeah.
Right. So I understand the
Mhm,
feelings, but now I have to
mhm,
manage the change. How make people
mhm.
wants to accept it, right? It's transition, yes. So at the first couple of months, we still have them. Oh, you can still print out the e-slip for you and everything else. But in the next, I think after next 3 months, like, okay, like you said, if you want to print it, you have to ask approval from your boss. So we just make them a little bit difficult. Like it's a kind
Yep,
of the behavior engineering kind of things, right? But
yep,
anyway, so we're talking about the quick wins, right?
yep.
So the quick wins that it's actually tangibles. We like literally counting the cost of the paper, the ones that we
Ah,
use to print,
yes, yes.
and it's not that much. Actually, only
Right.
comes to like several $100 per year for the
Yep.
paper. But then I say, okay, this is not going to convince the leaders. So we go back again, and I try to find something else. And I found out that they are keeping all of this copy of the payslips because again, I think in ISO standardization you have to keep documents at least 10 years before you can like
Yep.
burn them. They actually have storage units somewhere in the
Yeah.
warehouse.
Yep. Oh yeah.
So I just like going to the storage unit like, wait, this is like how many square meters? I mean, and then
Space.
the space.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like,
Yeah.
can you imagine that if we can like clear out like most of this, like 90% of this, and we can rent out the space to the new tenants in the office?
Oh.
So that's the thing,
Yeah.
right? And then I just
Yeah.
calculate it, even though they're not going to clear out the space at that year, but I can show them the value added of this change, the quick wins,
Yep.
right? But I say, like,
Yes.
okay, this is the how that you can get the value added. But if you don't want to do it, it's your choice. For me, I
Right.
already show you the how, right? And I show
Yes.
you, so it's like the incremental improvements or the cost savings, right? And then for that, and then for the storage units, everything else, and then like if you rent it to the new tenants, the space is possible. So I researched the price, the market price for the space renting, everything else. I put it in calculation, something like that, the market price. Yeah, it comes like quite okay. I mean, like a couple thousands per year. So
Yeah.
when they saw it, oh, okay, this is actually workable. It's actually feasible. So yeah. So
Yep.
that's one of the same. Show them the quick wins first. But there's one thing that I want the change management practitioner or like the change leader out there. One thing, manage their expectations.
Ah.
Yeah. Don't ever say that, oh, for sure you're going to get this kind of money. No. This way, if you do this, you can get this kind of money. But if you're only doing it consistently and then you're tracking it consistently, you might get this
Yep.
kind of money. Yeah. So again, showing the short ones, the quick ones, and the long ones, but just manage the expectations. So
Yeah.
yeah, when you're saying that, okay, how you make people excited about change, that's one thing, but you have to manage the expectation also after they get excited.
Yes. Yeah. So, Albert, a
Yeah,
few things I want to
yeah,
summarize, which is, I think will help a lot of our people out there,
hmm,
is you have, I think it's our responsibility. It's what you're saying
yeah,
is, as the change leader, the leader of the change, part of our responsibility is to find the quick wins that'll engage people that need quick
yeah,
wins. And that's the foundation for the long term investment
yeah,
to make that change deployable and sustainable.
yeah,
Huge, huge, huge. And then managing expectation. Like
hmm,
I'll say it this way. When I first got into continuous improvement,
hmm,
I saw my job as I'll say it was really more of an auditor, which means I would come and evaluate all the waste and make a list of all the improvement opportunities. And then I would give it to you and say, here, you should do these things.
okay, got it.
And guess what happened? Nothing. Nobody wanted, because every time I showed up, you're like, oh man,
Yeah,
here he
yeah, like I
comes
told you,
again.
nobody wants to change. I want to change, but I don't want to be changed.
100%. And so now I've evolved or grown a little bit because I got tired of people not liking me, not being invited to lunch. And, it sucked.
Yeah, yeah,
Nobody wanted me
auditor is
around.
like the public enemy. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, I was that guy, like, oh, here he comes. So now it's like, okay, I'm going to help the change, and I'm going to apply energy and effort and get in there. So, for example, using your example, we find all this square footage where there's boxes and boxes of paper of storage of five.
Yeah,
Well, let's go. I'll let me grab a box, you grab a box, and let's get them out of here. So the way I frame that is investing some sweat equity in the change. And to reinforce what you said, it's also painting the picture. Like, this is
mm,
the map. These are the things that we can do, that you can do, to get this short-term improvement and the long-term improvement. But as the change leaders, when we do that, the results are better. Managing
yeah,
expectations, like, hey, yes, we can start renting out, leasing out that extra space. It's going to take work to do that. It's going to take
yes,
effort to do that.
yes,
Like, that's totally, I mean, OG level stuff, Albert. Now, you said something, that change management is about managing change, not changing management. Now, so my philosophy in the way I approach change management, my focus is always to help the leaders that I'm working with augment or adjust the way they manage.
Yeah,
For some of them, it's a dramatic, it's not an adjustment, it's a kick in the face. For others, it's like a minor adjustment, right? And everything in between.
yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on the benefits of changing management styles?
Okay, so first of all, I have to say that I really like the that you created this sweat equity, right? I hope you trademark it.
Yeah. One of my classes, one of the class I teach, it's called sweat equity improvement.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
And
that's
yeah,
awesome, man. That's awesome. I mean, yeah, because this is related actually the ones that you're asking about the sweat equity, right? So it's actually like doing and then becoming the role model, actually then doing the change itself, and then showing
mhm.
them that the improvement is there if you just do it. But it's not always rainbow and roses. Sometimes you have
No,
to, yeah, and you have to sometimes sweat and it bleed if you want to become. You have to achieve the why again. You have to do the
yep,
how. That's where you manage the expectation. I really like that. And but when it comes to the leaders or leadership styles,
yeah,
how you change leadership styles. I mean, I've been there and I also experienced helping others to change their leadership styles. But before going there, I just want to make a note that change have these several facets of change on the impact scale. Like a minor change to you might be a big change for others, vice versa, something like that.
mm,
Right? This is something you have to make notes. So by changing the management style, like maybe okay, like for me, if I become a leader, I'm more of an introvert than extrovert, if I can say that, like the percentage. I'm trying to become an ambivert now, but still more strong in the
right.
introvert part. And to become a leader who's outspoken and then to become more directive leader sometimes might not work well for me. And then, but the ones that are saying that, oh, you can change your style easily. You just have to like give them a pat on the shoulder and then have the one-on-one with them, like and then walk around like a Genba walk, everything else. Like, yeah, I know that's very good. I realized that. I had fun editing, but it's like, burning me out doing that kind of things, dealing with
Mhm.
people. I was like, yeah. So, but I still have to do that. And then
Yes.
for you, the ones that, I mean, not you, but well, I think you're an extrovert. You connect people easily. I mean, like, I totally kudos to that. And then when I saying that, they were saying that, yeah, but it's easy. It doesn't take like 1 hour of your time. Like, I know it for you it's easy, but for me, after I do all of those things, like
Done. Yep.
I'm done. I have to recharge my battery. So that's why I'm saying, like, what are the things that you have to consider when you think about change the management or change the management style? Not even the style, but the people itself, themselves. So
Yep.
first, you have to know the impact. Like, is it something? Again, is it something worth it? That if you change the management style, what are the added values that you can gain from changing that? Rather,
Yes.
if you cannot change the management style, can you augment it with the leaders or the future leaders around that leaders? This is something that
Yes.
sometimes people forget. I distinctly remember that when you're posting about about how asking for help for other people. I think I forgot. I heard it from your show with Jen, or I think in your post. I think the value of asking for help, and it's something that
Yep.
for me personally I need to learn because I used to become a specialist. I used to become this, doing all my thing, and then suddenly I like working in the ecosystem. I realized I'm not alone. I become a leader. I'm not alone. I have to have someone to complement me, everything else. And then
Yes.
that's sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. But mostly it works. That's one thing.
Yeah.
That's the first one. Realizing that you're in the ecosystems, you as a leader, you're not alone. Changing your leadership style might worth it, might be feasible, but might not. You have to know the impact.
Mm.
The second is you have to know the scope. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you want to change it, but how much you want to change? I mean, you cannot just like, okay, because you're saying that you have the continuous improvement one, and then I'm
Mhm.
more, I totally into continuous improvements, but now we're talking about transformations. It's two different things, right?
Right.
Transformations most
Yep.
have a bigger scope, a bigger impact. The continuous improvement is like you're trying to find the incremental part and becoming big in the incremental one. But these
Yes.
two is aligning. So when
Yep.
you want to change your leadership styles or you can change the management styles, you have to know like, are you doing it incrementally or you're doing it like I say quantumly? Right? What are the
Right.
scopes? Where are you going to start? Are you going to start like coming into your office, patting everyone in the back, saying like, "Hey, good morning"? Like people who knows me
Right.
from day one, and then they saying like, "Oh, you're a little bit like aloof, like you're kind of snobbish, SOBs." Like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be that, but I have. like a challenge for me to open conversation first, everything, something like that.
Yep. Yep.
So that's why I try. But when I try to change a little bit the improvement part, like to become
Yeah.
saying hello first or smiling
Yeah.
first, yeah, that's for me changing my quote unquote my working or my management styles. But do
Yeah.
I like going out and it's like, hey everybody, let's go have a party, and then it's after the after office party, and then like, that's like doing the transformation part, the big leap part, and it might
Right.
not be get there in like 1 year.
Nope.
Again, step by step. So I think those two
Yes.
things, and you're saying when you're asking like, okay, so what are my thoughts on the changing the management style or leadership styles? Yeah, I think so. First, you have to know what are the impacts they're bringing in by changing that, and what is scope. Where do you want
Yeah.
to start first with those two things?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, I've been irresponsible and I love it. You gave me another layer to think through.
mm,
You're like me interacting with people, it does take energy from
yeah,
me, but not as much as me having to keep my mouth shut. Like me trying to stay quiet is more exhausting than it is for me to be jumping around and meeting people, right?
okay,
So,
okay,
but I've been critical of leaders that aren't engaging
mm,
with the people. And I never considered that maybe that type of engagement is an exhausting situation for them. So yeah, folks, all my people out there, I'm sorry, I'm going to do better, I promise. But I think the question, like the way to frame it, the way I'm going to frame it going forward is like, what's the impact? And you said it. What's the impact? What's the scope?
yeah,
How much of a draw? Because all change takes energy,
true,
period. And I'll also add, all change is disruptive. Even though we're trying to make things better in the short term, when
yeah,
we're making the adjustments, it sucks. Like it's hard,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
difficult, right? It's
yeah.
uncomfortable, it's
Agree,
new, it's we're
agree,
messing it up.
agree.
We don't have a command, we don't have expertise on it. Eventually we will. But when we're talking about leadership style, or we'll say engagement styles,
Mm,
to be more engaging,
mm,
where I'm not taking into account how much energy it takes for that human being to stretch their comfort zone,
yeah.
because it really is a comfort zone thing. So, bad on me. That was not good. I'll do better. So, I heard you talk about the digital
Mm,
transformation ecosystem,
yeah.
and it really resonated with me. But I'm not smart enough to repeat anything you said. So, can you help us? Can you paint a picture of what that is and how it frames your approach?
Okay. So, okay. When I talk about the ecosystems, I touched a little bit previously when I talk about the support
Yep.
systems around you. That's part of the ecosystem. But let's divide it the ecosystem between internally and external ecosystems. Like internally, is it
Ah,
like internal your organizations or external organizations, if organizations, but if individual and you experience your own transformation in digital. So internally, you have to be aware that your ecosystems digital is not technology. It's two different things. Yeah,
I'm so glad you
yeah,
asked.
yeah. I mean, I think thankfully most people are currently realizing that. But digital is more into your mindsets, your behavior.
Okay.
Again, people side. So these ecosystems, like I'm saying, if you're talking about individually, then you're talking about the head, the heart, and the hands. The
Okay.
head is the mindsets, the heart is your emotions, your feelings, and the hands is your skills. If you trace it to organizations, then you know the knowledge, skills, and attitude, the KSA, becoming competencies. So that's your part of the ecosystems internally. Saying that, knowing that you have these three parts you have to work on before you said, oh, I am becoming digital. Digital what? Okay, that's one thing. Because the mindset of digital people, like saying that, okay, example, in my country, most of the culture when saying that you have to fail fast so you can get up
Yeah.
fast again. It's a taboo, Jesse. Mostly it's taboo. People say, no, Albert, no. I don't want to show that I'm failing to my superiors.
Yes.
Say, but if you don't know you're failing, after you spend like 1 year in a project, then you've actually the project is not the ones that success in your eyes of a superior, then you already spent 1 year in the project. For example, something like that,
Right.
right? So
Right. Right.
yeah, that's the ecosystem part. I mean the ecosystem for the internal part, right? And the competency. So you will know what kind of these three areas that you need to build in your ecosystems. And to do that, you need the infrastructure around it. You need the
Okay.
knowledge managements, you need the ERP systems, everything. Now that's where we talk about the support system and the technology. What kind of technology go into it? So that's one part of the
Mm,
ecosystem. The other ecosystems is actually maybe the external part, maybe your vendors, right? Your suppliers. They're your ecosystem.
okay.
Why? Because we're saying to your vendors, hey, I want to become more digital. My company is going into digital provisions, so I want to become in more digital way of working. By what? I want to become more collaborative with you. So when you
Mm,
design your spare parts, everything else, we can design it together. If they're
okay.
saying that, oh, sorry, that's we already have an NDA, so it's confidential. You cannot design together. You cannot work with us. You just have to receive what we have. And if you don't want, you can find another supplier for that, right? Example, something like that. So you cannot become truly digital if you don't
Right.
have this collaboration part, because it's one part of becoming digital to become collaborative. And again, like failing fast. So when you have material suppliers, sometimes you need to do the QC, right? You have to ask them
Hmm.
like, give me some samples so I can try in my machines, or I can try to build something for my clients, but I need some samples first. But when they're saying, as simple as it, okay, but to do this sample, or for me, it's consulting, like, or POCs, right? You have to pay something like a down payment or deposit first.
Yeah.
I say,
Yep.
sometimes happens, right?
Yes.
So it's a chicken and egg kind of things. And like, how can I become digital if you don't want to have collaboration with me and you're not like taking like this is like the failing fast principle. So if I cannot use, you actually can't have a time to build a better spare part. So I can buy it from you. But sometimes if they're
Right.
not have that kind of, so this is the ecosystem outside the vendor, everything else, and your customers. Saying to say that, okay, one of the things that digital's way of working is something like iteration, something like that. So you give them the minimum viable products, or the I say sample first for them to
Yep.
try out again, and then after that you receive the feedbacks and you develop again. But then your customer saying that, oh, sorry, we're not doing that. I want to receive the 100 perfect products by you,
All the time.
yeah,
Yep.
all the time. I said, yeah, but we're trying to make this more added value for you. So we're trying to design together with you. Saying, oh, no, I hired you because I want the finished product done. It's not
Yep.
wrong. It's not, it's happening.
Yep.
So that's why I told it it's ecosystem. When you're trying like, oh, we true digital in what way?
Yeah.
There's a like a award, like a company for like, oh, you have like the number one digital transformations happening in your company, so you get this award.
Yes.
When I'm discussing about these awards, I say, oh, so is it for what, for corporate? Yes, but actually the ones that receiving it mostly come from the HR. So what you say is for company, right? So it's all your processes or not all most of your function at 80% already doing digital transformations. It's not only for your HR, yeah, but it's like the ones that are being interviewed, and it's only because our HR project again for technology, the new system. I said, yeah, but digital is not only technology, right? Yeah, but that's not what they said. We got the award, so yeah, so those kind of things, Jesse. I mean, ecosystem again. Why I told them ecosystem? Because when you want to transform something, even digital, analog, everything transformation, you have to think about all these moving parts, not only in the organization,
Yes.
but oh, I read the ones I think that the couple of years ago when you and Jennifer first started the podcast, everything, you mentioned the term ripple of impact, right? I really like that because I use that a lot when I go to my client. You have to think about the ripple of impact. So the ripple of impact, what kind of ecosystem you want to build around it. I
Yeah.
think that's the short information.
Yeah. That was Jennifer's thing. Like my understanding around it has grown in that everything I do has ripples of impact.
Yep.
Whether I'm doing like if I'm on doing it on purpose or not, it's still having impact. So there's a responsibility just as a human being. And what I love about the way you frame the ecosystem
Mm,
is you started with heart, hands, and mind. So that's the epicenter,
mm,
then the organization, the systems, et cetera, within the organization, then the vendors, then the client. That's the ecosystem.
mm.
And everybody needs to rather, when everybody wins in that ecosystem, the change sticks.
Yeah.
However, I think a lot of us make the mistake of only focusing on one of the stakeholders in
Yeah.
the ecosystem.
True.
And then everybody else just needs to bend and conform to serve the one, which, okay, that's going to probably drive revenue and maybe profits
Mm.
for a period of time. And then you end up having turnover or
Yes.
safety issues or vendors going out of business, like your ecosystem starts to die.
Yeah,
So,
agree.
man, amazing, Albert. It kind of makes me feel special that you've been watching the live streams of No BS with Jen and Jess and
Yeah, yeah,
the 5S lovers. Like, that's amazing to me. It's an amazing world. I mean, you and I connected on LinkedIn.
yeah,
You know, if I think back 5 years ago,
yeah.
I
I
was
think
not
about it.
like on social media except for Facebook to send stupid things to my friends. And now we're building relationships, building a business off of it. It's so amazing. So I want to bring the closing question, Albert, is what is the promise you are intended to be?
Ah, can I make it a homework for that? No, no. Okay, actually, this is something that I've been thinking since I'm reading and then watching your podcast and your shows and then becoming the promise that I tend to be. I was thinking of that. Okay, so I'm promising myself I can become that person that can add some critical values for others without compromising my principles. So I think that's one. Can we have more than one promise? But that's
Yeah,
one promise.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
one promise
yes.
I've been thinking. I've been thinking like since I'm watching you doing this session, everything else with the promise that you can be. So yeah, I think that's one promise that for me that since I started in the HR world as a space that I'm trying to do that shift.
That's pretty deep. And so,
Yeah.
like, when you think about it, what would that look like for somebody?
It's as simple like maybe you noticed that recently more open about my me becoming a coach or mentors for
Yep.
the new graduates, everything like that. So as simple as that, like I've been as a lecturer in the university, but when you mentor someone on one and you see that persons is the new graduates like, oh, I'm getting this job, and then like they are giving like a testimonial or something like, oh, thank you, sir, I'm like getting this job because you show me how to do the interviews and what are these industries. It's like, oh wow. I mean, like I'm actually fulfilling like a small points of the promises to me. I'm giving something of a as a critical value, not only a value, but critical value for this person that really going into the first time into their careers, their officer, which I hope doesn't mess them up much.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I
Yeah,
make
I mean,
every
that's
comment.
just yeah. So that's for me from the small point of view that what it looked like for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's so amazing. I love it. Albert, anybody you want to shout out?
Wow, there's a lot. Like for sure, shout out to your communities, and then the 4Js I mentioned at the starts, and then also the LinkedIn community, my networks, and I think most, not most, all of my juniors, my mentees, and my team that I have to say I can show you or mentor you about what are the best ways to do something, but I prefer that you learn from me about the things that I did, some of the things that I did, and learn not how to do that.
Yes.
I think that
Oh,
words, add more values to your learning from my mistakes.
yes,
Actually,
yes. Oh, I love it, Albert. Dang, you stuck around all the way to the end. And I hope the reason you stuck it like all the way through was because you were getting a lot of value out of the conversation. I always give at least one, most of the time, a handful of good nuggets, good ideas, good perspectives that I can take and apply into my life going forward. That's the whole point. I want to share that with you guys and also highlight the amazing people that they are. And I want to end this by saying, if you feel like you've been living out a script that was written for somebody else and you feel like you're in the wrong skin, I know that life. And all I did was numb myself to make it through to another day, which if you're there, you know how hopeless that feels. I want to recommend that you check out Becoming the Promise You Are Intended to Be. The stories in this book will help you know that you're not alone. They're my personal stories, like the real stuff that I went through, and I'm sharing them because it helps keep me sober. It helps me contribute my gifts and my talents in service to others. It helps me turn my failures, my shame, my embarrassment into something useful and positive. So check it out. Be kind to yourself, be cool, and we'll talk at you next time. Peace.